And now we can start. So welcome everyone. It's so great to have you here. This session is called I, Woman Rise, the path and potential for heart-centered female leadership. And in this new world, it's really a conversation we need to be having. So we're going to start, and before we start with just ringing the singing bowl, I would like to just introduce everyone who is with me. So let me start with Nianell, since many of you might not know her. Nianell is Namibian born. She's South African, multi-platinum, SAMA-winning singer-songwriting who has shared stages with Andrea Bocelli. Known for her 4-octave voice and over 10 albums, she's also an author. She's a spiritual leader. She holds a PhD in metaphysics, and she uses her music and teachings to inspire global healing and self-discovery. So very welcome, Nianell. It is so great to have you with us. And it's
so much, Haseena. It's absolutely wonderful to be here with you guys. Thank you so much.
Oh. And then I'd like to introduce Anna-Marie, who needs no introduction, because Anna-Marie is one of the co-producers of World Unity Week, and she is the founder of the Hague Center for Global Governance, Innovation and Emergence, and I am so blessed to be a team member with the Hague Center. So, and just to say that Anna-Marie has been one of my strongest mentors and still is. And so when we discuss female leadership, it's so close to my heart, and it's wonderful to have her here. And then I'd like to, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Haseena Patel. Like I said, I'm with the Hague Center, together with my sister Shamima, who does a lot of the background work, and she's a leader in a different way in her own right. So we are co-founders of Leave No Girl Behind International. We've empowered girls through leadership programs, and we are now empowering women through our newest program called I, Woman Rise. This is a conversation that's going to be very heart-centered. We'd love to include you as participants. It's really something that we need to have. So let's get right into it, and I'll ring the singing bowl to just let us land in the space and feel good. I'll ring it 3 times. Awesome. And as we go into this session, perhaps all of us just come to what's alive in us right now. So that's a big question. And I'm just open to the possibilities and the unfoldings, and whatever emerges, whatever wisdom emerges from all of us 28 participants. So I'm asking you, Nianell and Anna-Marie, what's alive for you now?
Anna-Marie, do you want to go first?
No, please, go ahead.
Haseena, if you mean what is alive for me now, are you asking what is happening in my heart at this moment?
Yep.
Basically, I just feel such a great gratitude to be a part of something where people come together and there's a common vision, a common goal of unity, which is just for me so beautiful because, you know, we are all one. And I believe that something like this that brings us all together is just so amazing. So I feel really grateful to be a part of this. You know, often in my seminars and classes, I explain that being one and being part of everything and can be very much a cognitive idea. We understand that we are one, but do we really feel that oneness, you know? And I think for me, the most important thing is when you can actually start accessing the feeling of something. And just as we opened the room and opened the session, I could actually feel the unity. And being a musician, songwriter, you know, and a clairaudient, listening to the frequencies in a space, I can definitely hear such a unique frequency of a common vision and a sense of openness where people really want to connect and feel their oneness. And for me as a musician and as a songwriter and as a sound healer, the frequency feels great, the energy is wonderful, and when we hold this frequency, we are vibrating this, and it is emitting outwards, which is just so wonderful to be a part of. So thank you so much.
Thank you for how you described that. That's really lovely. And there were two things for me coming up. One was at the same time, actually. One was that I could just feel my heart being open and excited in this conversation, and then also this kind of like sense of, yeah, what is leadership actually, and that I don't have an immediate answer. That I always start with, oh, perhaps I don't know, and then something comes. So I'm just I'm always a bit surprised by that response within myself. And I think it has to do with that I take the question that you're asking in my heart. That's the first thing that it lands in, not my brain. So it comes in my heart, and then it has to find somehow something that can be expressed in words. And so I guess that's also part of what I'm looking forward to in this conversation. And I love it that we're, you know, that you have that background, you know, with music and that kind of thing as well, because that is of course such a wonderful teacher and example and expression of our hearts songs. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Well, I'd like to ask a question, and I think we all question ourselves sometimes. We've all stepped into the space of what we think leadership is, and we doubt ourselves sometimes, we question ourselves. And I know that there are men in the room, and I'm specifically speaking, you know, with women. I don't know if you can identify. A lot of times we've been taught to be a certain way, or we've been taught to that leadership should appear in a certain form. And so it's sometimes a challenge to step into our hearts instead of into our heads of what that ingrained teaching. So what I'd like to ask of both of you is what is the difference between the leadership that perhaps you were taught and what you feel is heart-centered leadership? And there may be no difference, but there might be a difference. So I just wanted to open that up to begin with.
Anne-Marie, you
yes.
looking to go?
I guess I have there's the heart-centered leadership has given me much more permission to be fully myself. So I think part of the example that I had as my father being on the outside, a leader in his work, he was doing that in a certain way, and he was trying to also bring in his heart, but he was also really let's say a masculine, more yang kind of leader. And I felt that there were moments that we as children anyway didn't take him serious, and that I felt that was pretty painful in the sense of that I thought, well, I don't want to be having that kind of experience as small as I was. And looking back, those were moments when he was actually closing his heart and making himself a bit bigger because of some kind of challenge, instead of keeping the heart open. That was when it closed for me. It took me a long time to come up to really understand what it was that was holding me back. So I have really felt an enormous freedom, actually, when I co-founded the Hague Center and we really focused on heart-centered leadership. And that it was kind of like I heard this little voice, and that helped me to understand. I don't care less. I'm just going to do it. This is how we do it. This is what I want. And okay, maybe I don't speak too much about the heart and love, etc., but I'm going to do it anyway. And that kind of like, that sense of feeling, that gave me actually a lot of freedom to really be more present as myself.
I love that, Anne-Marie, because showing up as yourself, as your authentic, true self, that takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of vulnerability, because when you are willing to really show up as your true self, you've got to be completely vulnerable and allow the world to see into your heart and to see into your soul. And I often used to think that you've got to put this, you've got to put on the makeup, and you've got to put on the show and do that. But what I've realized in my performances is that quite often when I actually fall down on my face on the stage, which has happened before, and the times when I am not at my best, at the times that I'm the most vulnerable, was when the performance moved most people and touched hearts. And it's when we show up as confident with our shadow side as well as our strengths, and we are willing to say, you know what, I'm just doing my best. And I am showing up with so much love for, first of all, myself, and then for others. But that must be tangible. It mustn't just be something that you say. People can feel it, and I have a line that I always use: you've got to feel it in order to be it. And so my whole Image Change company is about accessing the feelings. And every teacher out there, every guru teaches that in order to attract or manifest something amazing into your life, you first got to feel it. You've got to come into the feeling. Now, I've written a book called A Song That Yet Unsung, and I was actually just asked this question yesterday, and the lady asked me, is it possible, and what would actually create this for somebody to go through their entire life and not find their song, not be able to access their song, And I thought that was such a beautiful question, because it really took me very deep into myself, and I had to realize that these identities that we create, even as leaders, every version that we've created for ourselves is for someone out there, We have an identity and a version of ourselves for our children, for the people at work, for everybody. And so what I realized is that we've created these personas and these identities to fit every role in life. But that doesn't mean that that's your authentic true self. And at some stage, life is going to bring you to a place where these identities sort of fall away. And when they fall away, it takes a lot of courage to step into the unknown, and brace that. And I believe that if you as a leader aren't willing to flow with what is, to give up, if you are attached to certain ideas and certain concepts and this idea of who you are and the identity that you are, and you're not willing to let that go, then you will not be able to bring your authentic, vulnerable song to the world. And people resonate with that. People resonate with you showing up and being willing to be like water, to flow with what is, So the more rigid we are as leaders, the more forceful we are, the less we inspire people. But if we show up like water, fluid, willing to just kind of flow and willing to be vulnerable. And that is why I believe that, yes, we all have the greatest potential to be the most amazing leaders, but females, and even if the males access their feminine side, because the feminine side leads a different way than the male energy. The feminine allows things to be. She opens herself up and she's willing to receive. And when we lead from that place, when we lead from a place where we say, I'm open to receive, rather than follow me, this is how it's been done, this is a whole different energy. And you show up with your feelings. Like, I know, because every time I'm on a stage or in front of an audience, you think that you've got to hold it together, but it's really the times when I fall apart, maybe show my emotions, actually cry on a stage, really feel the music, feel the audience. That is when people can really connect with you. And to be a great leader, you need to connect with the people that is listening to you. They've got to feel you. You've got to feel it to be it.
I love that you say that. In my world, that's what I name unbecoming, who you are not. Just like when you're painting a watercolor, all that a negative space or the white space has to be formed, and that's what forms the picture inside. So when you cast off all the layers and you unbecome who you are not, then you're what I call truth walking, because you're just being your truth. Water has actually been a big symbol today. In the previous discussion, we were talking about the flow of the water and the river.
Wow.
We had Jane Naidu on, and he was using that analogy. But what I think that is so powerful, and just in our lived experience, because this is what it's about when we're living this experience, and it's off the cuff, and you're thinking, what am I going to do now? And you go into your heart, and we've all had that, where you feel like, okay, there's an uncomfortable situation. How am I going to step in and just be this? And then you stop caring about whether it's right or wrong, and you just want to be in alignment. We've all had that feeling. So what I'd actually like to do now, before we even continue our discussion, I'd really like to include everyone. So Shamima, I'm giving you a bit of work here. If you could put us on gallery view, because I'd just like us to feel this and raise our hands if this is what we feel in the spotlight. Oh, it's so great to see everyone here. And I know there's a page 1 and a page 2, but I'm going to be switching between pages. What I'd like to ask is, who here feels that they've stepped into a different kind of leadership to what they've been taught, and that they've stepped out of the box and into their potential, or at least begun that process? You can raise your hand, and I'm not just talking to women. Like I said, there are men in the room. It takes all of us for that feminine side to come through, the leadership on that side. And I see Claire, you're raising your hand. And I see, okay, Nianell, yes. Yes, I see other hands being raised, Mom. Okay, so people are relating. And I'd also like to just ask a second question, that who here, thank you, Bruce, who here has felt that they're still in that space of being a little uncomfortable, like there's a question of, am I going to be accepted as I step into what I know is the truth of my own leadership process within? Anyone feel that way? Because there are times that I feel like that. Yeah. And I just want to ask if anyone would like to maybe just share for, not for long, maybe 30 seconds or so, just their lived experience of stepping into their own realm of leadership. So if anyone wants to share, if you could just raise your electronic hand, it's on the heart reaction, you probably know this, and you just go to the heart reaction and there's a raised hand. And yeah, Bruce, were you raising your hand to share or just raising your hand?
Oh, I had it up already, I guess, but I could share.
Yes, please.
You wanted, and I think I'll answer it through your first question, because what feels alive in me as an artist and the place I grew up in Glacier National Park in Montana is the more than human world, and how does like his leadership, how does that live in us? Like for me, it's land as mentor, and how does that integrate into our thought process and what we bring into the world?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you. Claire, go ahead.
Hello. So yes, this is pretty huge for me. Up until this point, I haven't had conventional leadership roles in life. I've done jobs and I've been a mother. And I never kind of climbed that ladder in any organizations. Number one, I didn't want to, and number two, life just kind of didn't set up that way. And then I find myself in a position where I've envisaged something of an organization that has pretty world-changing plans, and I'm in a kind of void of a space at the moment where I realize I could actually make it up any way I please, which means I often have to be in that space of what is it I'm actually called to do. But also, I want to be asking the question, what is the world calling us to do right now? And that feels like a really, a balancing act. What I absolutely don't want to do is trip into sacrificial giving that women are so kind of coded to do. I guess I mean more conditioned to do than really coded. But I do want to give of gifts and everything that I am to the world. So it's big. It's a big question, and I thank you for asking it.
Thank you for sharing.
Go ahead, Anna Marie. Did you want to?
I said thank you for sharing.
And then next is M. Hona Orion. Excuse me, I don't know what to call you, so you're just going to have to guide me. I'm just, do you see the ask to unmute? Let me just see. Oh, there we go.
It's Megan.
Megan. Hi,
Legally,
Megan.
I'm M. I chose my own name. I was not happy with the name I was given at birth. And over time, I tried to change it several times and I finally succeeded. And The reason for the initial is that I was being patronized by a government official at a counter at one time. And I walked out of there steaming, thinking that I want to be able to choose who knows my first name.
Mm.
And therefore, from that came the initial M. And and there's not, my parents had a hard time with that, but they accepted it finally. And so here I am. But I serve on a small town council, and I find that often what I have to say is makes other council members uncomfortable. And I don't usually let that stop me, but it does help me to modulate what I say and how I say it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. And that really touched me. That's so powerful, because I have gone into spaces where someone will say, call me Mrs. immediately. And I say, no, that's my mom. I'm Haseena. And sometimes they call me Miss. And I don't resonate with that. They can call me Ms. And we can just look each other in the eyes and honor each other's names. So that's very touching. Thank you. Summer Joy. And Summer Joy is part of the co-producers team in a huge way. So I just want to honor you for that as well, and for your leadership.
Oh, thank you. It's really interesting though, because I think I kind of struggle with leadership. There's something about leadership that feels very, I don't know, like demanding or a little pushy. I feel and it's interesting because I think, Haseena, you brought up the river and the water earlier, and I've been in the space this morning with Joe Brewer, and it's, following the river of World Unity Week. And in some ways I feel like I'm coming more into the awareness with life all the time is a co-creator. And I don't know. I don't feel like there's like it's about leadership for me inside my body. It's more like just with what's arriving, and maybe the sort of time we're in as well, that's like you just don't know what's going to be around the next corner. There is sort of a kind of um chaos in some ways about life right now. But I've been thinking a lot about the concept of a river, and also how clear a river is, right? Like the river knows where it's going. It doesn't really take a lot of BS. And it just, like, I find myself in a state of like presence and feeling like just the presence with what I need to arrive to in that sort of space that feels very powerful. And yeah, I don't feel like there's a struggle of what is mine to do either, but I don't think a river really either does. And there was something Joe Brewer said earlier about where the Missouri River and the Delta, the Mississippi came together, and how profound it is and how quiet, that there's an intelligence, that it isn't just about a rushing river, but also that there's certain confluences that, and it knows how to do that. And that's what I feel is very up right now in me, of like, no, there's a knowing. Anna Marie, I would say I very much admire how she dances through life and shows up. But there's like a knowing, it's beyond the thinking mind, that I think is it's intuition, it is heart, but it's also not knowing at the same time, but really showing up there. And so, anyways, I know that's beyond probably the time that you wanted me to talk, but that's what's present right now. And thank you for this
Haseena,
space.
may I share something? Summer, I absolutely love what you just shared now, because I in my previous chat I said we should be like the water flowing, and just
Yes, I heard
and
you say
feel
that.
it. And what is
Yes.
so beautiful about your river analogy, everything eventually connects with the big, vast oceans, and as you can see how everything is actually connected. And I think we're in a time and space where we need to connect with that higher intelligence that we are all a part of, the source of like all of this creation, which is flowing within everything. And so when you're referring to intuition, we are tapping into that part of us that is divine, that is infinite, and that is connected to everything. And then you can't go wrong. And I believe that if we speak about leadership, if we can connect, and I agree with you, it's a collective. It's not just one person showing the way. It's a collective going within and connecting with the divine source within us, and allow ourselves to be led. And that's what I believe is anybody who's in a position that has influence, if they can allow themselves to be led by that divine consciousness and then flow with the water. So I loved what you shared. Thank you so much, Summer.
Thank you. And also the vulnerability piece too that you were speaking about. Yeah, just like to just let it be. Like it's not a plan, right? Like emotions and like, oh no, this is happening. That just happens, right? It's just part of life. And
Absolutely.
how to just like a river, it's like, and then we
Just
move
like
through it and we move on to what's next.
Absolutely. And sometimes we put something out there, and I think that was Hasina's question. Do you sometimes feel afraid, that what you put out there won't be accepted? And have you experienced something like that? And I believe that when you do share your heart, when you do share your vision and your goal, and just sometimes when you share yourself, there is actually going to be a lot of people who will not flow with that, but there will be a lot of people who will flow with that. And you have this beautiful free will to choose to focus on the ones that flows with that. And the ones who doesn't flow with that, you love that anyway, because they bring in such beautiful mirrors for you just to realize, oh, okay, I can grow here, I can learn here. And so yes, Asina, when you put something out there, you're very vulnerable because a lot of people might not be open to that. And so part of this is to for me, as someone who do share a lot, you do get the backlash. And that is when I believe you have to be so loving and kind with yourself, and so just gentle and compassion, and actually become like that water, and just be with what is, and not force and not resist and not try and understand, because that can drive you crazy, and just be with what is and just observe it and honor it and bless it. And and that takes practice. Sometimes we succeed at this and sometimes we don't, but it's all part of this beautiful game. And yeah, and I just love to be part of the water, to the flow of everything. It's quite exciting, isn't it?
It is. It is. Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, no. So I see we have quite a few hands. So what we're going to do, I see my mom's next on the screen. And we're just going to go to the remaining hands, and then we'll go to the next part of our discussion. I just find it so warm sharing here. So I just ask if we could just be mindful of the time, because there's so much more to this to unpack. So, Mom, yeah.
So, Haseena is a yoga teacher, and Shamima and I do yoga with her. So, I put on, when I go out, because it's winter, I put on leggings and I put on my tackets. And I said to them,
Sneakers for our US people.
sneakers. So then I said to them, how do I look? And Haseena said, well, from the butt, your leggings are not looking good. And I said to her, well, I'm going like this. Because the one day, if you can see my hair, it's not the way I normally do it, but I don't feel like blow drying my hair every day. So I don't. And nowadays when you go out, when I say, how did my hair look? Mom, at your age, it doesn't matter. And I thought, she is so right. So I stopped blow drying my hair. And I go out like this, and I feel people must accept me as I am. It's not about me, it's about them. How they see me is their problem, not mine. And they are allowed to see things the way they want to see. How does that concern me? Because I see things the way I want to see. And then I've got very difficult neighbors. We live in a cul-de-sac. And two of my neighbors were difficult. And the one day, the one guy, drug addict, set his house alight. And the one neighbor knocked on my window early in the morning. I said, do you know that house is on fire? And his immediate neighbor, I said to her, are you okay? And she was one of the difficult ones, very difficult. And since then, because I cared, she's been so good to us. And then I've got another neighbor who was difficult. I thought I'm going to be the example I expect other people to be. And so I didn't care. I thought it's about him, it's not about me. And within a space of a few years, things started changing. And they will do anything for me. I just have to ask.
Well, Mom, that's like we attract what the vibration that we're on, and we attracted it. You attracted it, and yeah, one sees the change. Thank you. Joyce?
I enjoyed your mother's comments. I believe you're Indian, and that reminded me of Gandhi saying something like, be the change you want to see. Being that role model, she changed her neighborhood and showed her personal leadership, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm 87 years old, and I grew up during World War II, and in the early 40s, in my little hometown of Owatonna of 10,000 people, Eleanor Roosevelt came to town, and she was promoting the United Nations and the UN Declaration of Human Rights. And of course, she had famously said, nobody can make you feel inferior without your permission. I was blown away by Eleanor Roosevelt. She was a big influence on me. And in those years, girls were not normally allowed to play boys' sports, but somehow I went to a Catholic school, and the priest who was a coach let me play baseball and football with the boys because I loved it. I couldn't be on the team when they played, but I just grew up with that sense of teamwork. And in sports, you learn to bring out the best talents in each other. Leadership and coaching and in sports is all about enhancing the ability of each individual. Not everyone can do everything, but they can do something. So from that early sense of participating with the boys, even when I just started working as a little secretary, I always had I was secretary to the president of a big corporation, but I always felt I was part of the team, and I was always giving suggestions, and he was always asking me for opinions on things because I had that sense of teamwork. So a little later in life, I was called upon. I think Claire talked about being called, whether it's just being a mother or whatever. I was called upon to become a founding administrator of a university in Pakistan, in Lahore. And when I worked there for many years, and I came back to America, but then I went back for a year, and the people had hired a general to replace me as administrator after I left. And that was during military dictatorship, and the boss wanted somebody to talk to the governor about getting some permissions for some expansions. And I said, well, you've got your general, and he's a general, and he'd probably prefer talking to a man. And I was blown away because our owner was a real macho type guy. And he said to me, Madam, you're more than a man. And he sent me instead of the general. But I think a lot of it was just simply wherever I was called upon to be a leader because I brought out the talents of people around me. Then back here in America, I was asked to be the founding president of a new congregation, a new church, which we called All Faiths, bringing the diversity of all faiths together in recognition. So if you bring your holistic self, it isn't heart versus mind, it's heart and mind, soul, body. You bring your whole authentic self and just be who you are, and you show up as part of the team. Leadership follows from that. You're just called upon. It happens. It isn't like you're climbing a ladder. You're just invited in. And I think that's what's missing in a lot of our women. They thought leadership is about domination, telling people what to do. And of course, for a long time, that was the style with men. But they're getting away from that now. And they've even shown studies now that corporations led by CEOs who are kind are more profitable and do better, and they have more longevity of employees and more initiative than those that have the dominator role. So they brought that feminine aspect into management style. It's being recognized, and that's women's contribution, bringing that heart in that you've been talking about. I'm sorry it took so long, but it's been quite a ride.
I think that's amazing, and thank you so much for sharing. At some point, I think Shamima and I definitely want to interview you, Joyce. So please private message me with your email address if you're okay with that.
So, Joyce, sorry, Haseena,
Yeah.
I am 79 years old.
Yeah, the next generation, the previous generations, to my generation, we get to take the baton from them, and there's so much wisdom there, and we get to keep that and to honor it. So, yeah. And just a little bit later, as we move into our second segment after Juliet shares, I'm going to ask Anna Marie to share some of her story, because she's just amazing, in her founding of the Hague Center. And yeah, Juliet, please share.
Oh, thank you. Just to say, such wonderful sharing. It's so inspiring to hear everybody. I loved everything that was being said, and I think that we are very much on the crux of it, moving into another phase. And I just wanted to add that, to me, the idea of courage is a very old paradigm idea in leadership, that you need courage, etc. I think that that's the one of the warrior, that's the one of the us versus them, and it's come to me that it's in fact humility and compassion. That's the way of the paxier, the feminine peacemaker, as opposed to the warrior who has to do his thing. And so I've just found that courage doesn't seem to fit for me anymore. It's more humility. It's melting into, dissolving into with compassion as opposed to courage. But thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you, Juliet. That's such a refreshing point, about the humility.
May I share with that? May I reply to
Yes,
that?
please, Niana.
I'm so happy that you said that, Juliet, because I think you're so spot on. Because for me, the way that I was raised and the way that I experienced myself in the world always felt to me like I need to protect myself, And so you are so spot on. The courage is needed if you still feel like you're going to be exposed and you're going to be attacked and you're going to be under attack. So you are so spot on with that. And now entering and going into, I'm turning 55 this year, and I'm actually so surprised that I'm actually reaching the stage where they say you can legally now access your retirement fund, and I'm realizing now in this next stage and phase of my life that true beingness and vulnerability and putting myself out there is the old way of talking, that I need courage. But so the way that I've learned now is this: if you're in alignment with the divine energy, then that is at the same time so, like you said, humbling, because then you understand that something much bigger than you is taking care of everything and that you are actually safe and secure. So when I'm referring to courage, I think I'm speaking about that old conditioning and the old fears that I used to grew up with, and the fear that I felt in my own home, and the fear that I felt as I grew up, So that's when you go, you have to have courage to put yourself out there. But with your wisdom, you came and beautifully just reminded me that it actually just takes humility and surrender, So thank you. Thanks so much. I love that. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you for sharing that, Nianell. And before I go to Anna Marie, I just also want to honor you for sharing, Devane, about feeling unheard, when speaking, and how the children I will look at the children present and ask them if they hear me. When they say that they do hear me, I will usually still my voice. So powerful, because we all have these moments of feeling unheard. And how do we just be in our center and be with that? And Anna Marie, I want to ask you, I know this is very kind of off the cuff, but I mean, that's nothing new for you. But if you could please share just your a bit of your lived experience as you co-founded the Hague Center, as you founded the Hague Center, and came into like where it is now. Because one thing I know about you is that whenever you're in a conversation or you're making a decision, you always take almost a step back, like into your center, and you come from that space, and you take the time to actually come from that space, which is even more admirable, because people are afraid of pauses, they're afraid of spaces. So if you could just talk a bit about that.
Thank you. Well, this was also a beautiful sharing that I just heard. I think the pauses partly have to do with taking responsibility, and then as a response and being able to respond. So the response ability, that I sometimes just have to find the words, and that I have learned that it is better to take that little moment than fall over it. And that has to do with the body awareness. And I presume you also know that, Nianell, because you are, of course, as a singer, also so much in your body and using your body. That it is actually, I think, coming into center, not being nervous. That's how it started, being nervous. And then how do I keep the tremor out of my voice? And then somebody said to me, oh, just go to the toilet and stamp your feet and just take a breath. And this was before I knew anything about yoga and those kind of things. And I thought, oh, wow. And I did that. And it was such an amazing, effect. So there's something about the body supporting us to show up. And I think I was in that sense lucky that when I started with the Hague Center with Pete and Mary, that I was very much following my intuition, because we were doing totally new things that we didn't know what it actually was, this mesh working and things like that. And what he was doing was asking me, because he observed what I was doing, he would ask me just to share what I was doing, and then he would put concepts and theory to it. And that was, for me, and that's what you as team members also often do with me. You say, oh, you're doing this, and we're seeing you do this. Isn't this actually that? And in that way, making meaning for me by reading what I am doing has given me, I guess, I am going to use the word courage, because I feel it was like that. It was having the courage, and then as heart, courage is the heart, to take that serious, that intuitive work, gathering connections that I was doing at that time here in the Netherlands and internationally. So that gave me a kind of like a practice of trusting that I didn't need to know it all, because when you ask me to teach, you know what happens. I get stressed out because I feel, oh, I don't know how to teach. I don't know the theory. I can't do that. If you ask me, share a little bit of your experience, I'm fine with that. So there is this sensitivity to the words and the concepts that I respond to that are really important. And having had people around me that were aware of that, or somehow played with me in that kind of way of working together, has made me also become more trusting that is okay, and that's a good way to also do things. And then I just want to say one thing. I was in February with Summer Joy and with John in Costa Rica, and John is an amazing jazz musician on the guitar with his friends. And then watching them and watching us responding to that and seeing how they were sensing with each other, and one was leading and the other was listening, and doing that kind of way, it was a joy to see that. But it was also giving me back how I am often with, for example, when I'm co-facilitating with Adrian, we're doing that as well. Sometimes the one steps forward, sometimes the other. Sometimes it's the holding, sometimes it's the direction. But we have started to really practice and learn that I can also do the direction. There are moments where I can have that clarity. So to know that there is, in any moment, I can twist that around in myself, in that accessing the feminine, accessing the masculine. I did first need to train them both separately, but now the blending together, and I think the younger generations, they don't need that practice. If they get the permission from us, if they get the permission just to be themselves and to see that they can do it that way, they don't need to first go through the one and the other and get smacked around. Oh, of course, they will bump into walls, no problem. But there's something, I think, that we're learning to navigate more, have more sensitivity to our body, and that is including the masculine, feminine, the yin-yang side.
Oh, thank you so much, Anna-Marie, for that. And it actually raises another point. So before I go onto that thread that you just raised, I just also want to read Susan Key's comment in the chat that also speaks to the difference in leadership and management. The vulnerability of leadership requires you to connect with others on a more intimate level, to allow others to access your inner thoughts and ideas versus a list of rules that is management. And I love that, together with what you said. So let me just respond to this as we go down the new thread, and also to say, Joyce, I see your raised hand, and we are going to have another opportunity, so please bear with us, and I'll remember to call on you for the next segment. You know, the opportunity being there is something where we either get to grab it or not. And where I learned to go into my heart was because this was World Unity Week in 2023. I had been on the Bridging Continents weekly calls with Anna Marie, and I found this very interesting, and I liked the way that she worked. I wanted to know more about her, and I wanted to help more in World Unity Week, because I had had a convergence room in those days. So what had happened was I volunteered to help Anna Marie with some of the plenary sessions, which was an absolute honor. And this was around June. And there were 3 different plenary sessions, and they were all happening now just in a space of one day. And then my partner, Tom, and I, who's here right now, we had our own convergence room. And then there was another convergence room I was doing a talk in. So the time that I had allotted to prepare for my talk, half an hour before, it didn't happen because everybody needed something at some point. And 10 minutes before, I'm sitting there and I thought, I have no presentation. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I actually thought of Anna Marie in that moment, and I dropped into my heart and said to myself, well, you'd better be aligned, because you walking in there and see what comes from your heart. And I took that risk, I took that chance and grabbed that opportunity and went in. And it was really the best feeling, because it was not in my head remembering what to say or what to make a list of. And Susan, that's where your comment comes in as well. It was just being centered and being in alignment. And sometimes you really don't know what's going to come out of your mouth, and you just have the opportunity present something where you think, wow, I never said it that way. And you think, I hope this was recorded. I want to go back to that. So that's my lived experience of how leadership moved for me from the, like, in the head to the heart. And Nianell, I see that you sound like you want to respond there.
No, I can just definitely resonate with what you're saying. And you know, having to show up, and I teach many online seminars and classes, and sometimes I'm surprised that, like you said, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, and I'm just laughing because sometimes I know I'm talking, but it doesn't feel like it is me talking, you know. And that is kind of those humbling moments where you understand that you are really not teaching the class, you're actually learning with them, and you're just flowing with them. And then your heart is just filled with gratitude. And Joyce spoke about teamwork, which I just think is such an incredible concept, which I feel I've only started to learn about later on in my life. And to be honest, I have been sort of a lone wolf, working for myself, building up things. And then now it is now almost 12 years ago, I met my husband, my second husband. With my first husband, we became pregnant with triplets, which was so beautiful. And then, you know, we got divorced, and then I was alone for a little bit, and then I met this young man, and he's 22 years younger than me. And I was like, this love, how is this love going to work? Because he is just so young. And so being much older than him, I sort of wanted to take the lead in things, but, I left him many times because I thought, no, this is ridiculous. But then we got married about 2 years ago, and about 5 years ago, we started working together. And this was a new territory for me because I always used to do things on my own. And I used to work like this with a team. If a problem arises, I will go, okay, how am I going to solve this problem? Okay. And then I will look at all the scenarios. How am I going to solve this problem? And if I didn't know how to solve this problem, I would look at somebody else in the team and go, all right, do you know how to solve this problem? Do you know how to solve this problem? And if they don't know how to solve the problem, I will go, oh my word, we are stuffed. Okay, we're not going, this is like, we are stuffed. And then with this beautiful young husband of mine, I told him this. I said to him, this is how I feel. Like, if I can't figure it out and you can't figure it out, I feel like we're stuffed, what are we going to do? And this young man said to me with all the wisdom in the world, he said, have you thought about that we can actually figure it out together? And that concept was never even in my frame of thinking. And and that is just so wonderful when Joyce shared about the teamwork and how you figure things out together, and how Joyce looked at the strengths in everybody and sort of brought that to light. And I think that is just such wisdom that is coming from this group today, from everybody here. I feel like I'm being taught and being guided, and I feel like I'm sitting amongst the greatest leaders in the world. So yes, how beautiful. This is really such a wonderful moment for me to be part of this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Anne-Marie, I wonder what comes from you thinking about all this. If you want to just maybe share your greatest opportunity where you just jumped in, or is there something else that comes to you?
There are two things that come. One is actually about the river. We were talking about the river that knows and goes its way to the ocean, and it goes like that, and then it comes to a rock. And we did this. How do you call that in English? The canoeing? No, the kayaking. And I was, and we don't have hills and mountains here in the Netherlands. Everything is flat, so our rivers don't go that fast. There are no rocks in between. There's no problem. It's very easy to go along. So what I noticed with the kayaking and leading the boat, trying to lead the boat, going with the flow, that it was very often counterintuitive. That I thought, oh, there's a rock, I need to go away. And then, no, you have to lean towards the rock. And you have to do all these different things. For me, that was kind of like a training in another type of leadership. That's how I start. That's how, those are the things that then come up for me that I'm trying to see. What on earth am I doing here? How does that work? So sometimes there are these things that just, my first impulse is to do something, and then to take that breath and hold back, that you were mentioning, Haseena, or just look at the partner or somebody else. Something else can arise, and that I feel is something that really helps me in these spaces where I am in between people that are not used to speaking with each other because they come from very different backgrounds, multi-stakeholder contexts, different purposes, no common ground yet. That is something that I then use for that.
Yeah.
And I guess there's something else that, I was brought up I was born in the Middle East, and then we moved to the Far East, and I was between Chinese, Malayan, Indian, all kinds of different groups. Every 2-3 years we would move around and change. And, you know, the questions we would ask as youngsters, my parents didn't always have the answers themselves because it was new territory for them as well. I'm talking about the 60s. So, you know, we didn't have WhatsApp and that we could look it all up. It was new for them as well. And one of the things that they both taught me was they said, you know, if I would ask something, they said, we don't know how it works here yet either, but go and do something. Even if we were, you know, 5 or 6, do something in your sports or in what you want to do something and follow your heart, because that's the thing that always stays with you. The rest is always changing, but the heart can guide you. Just do what you love to be doing because you're good at that. It's easy. You can connect with the people around that. And that's, as you know, Haseena, is the principle that we still use in the Hague Center. What makes your heart sing? Because that can really align you. It creates the coherence. It helps us to tune in to each other also when we are far from each other. And we don't always need to have the difficult stuff to learn. That will come anyway. No worries about that. Especially in the work that we're doing with so much not knowing. So follow our hearts. That's always with us. And of course, the breath is a beautiful access to that.
Yes. Well, Anna-Marie, thank you for that. And I know you've said that to me before. If something has to be done or you know, I've been asked to do something and you can see my energy is just like going like this because and you say, well, is this yours to do? You know, is this what makes your heart sing? And I'm like, no, but it has to be done. Is it what makes your heart sing? And either we're able to find someone whose heart does sing doing that, or find a way to shift it so that one does it in a different way that does make one's heart sing. So I love that. So I'm looking at the time here, and I do want to stop just before the top of the hour for the next thing. So what I'd like us to do is just you know, just share about I know Nianell, you shared about your emit change, and we can just do this very quickly because after this I want to take us through an exercise where leadership begins within and how to get back into that alignment. But Nianell, if you can share something about that, and then Anna-Marie, if you can share. I think, I mean, you share so amazingly what we do in the Hague Center. And then I'd like to share about this leadership program. So Nianell, if you could just start us off, because there's so many different ways to lead oneself into leadership. So
I love what Anne-Marie says, to follow the heart, to follow the heart. So Emit Change was really born because I felt that I really needed guidance, you know, and I've studied many things for many years, and I learned that knowing something doesn't change anything. It honestly doesn't. I had to apply what I've learned. And for me, it happened a couple of years ago when my whole world sort of stopped, and I would wake up every morning and I would just feel horrible, and I would feel horrible, and I would feel horrible. And so I started applying everything I've learned and all the gifts that you know, I feel very grateful. And because I'm clairaudient and I can hear the frequencies and vibrations within things, I started singing them and I started recording them and I started listening back to it myself. So we created, my young husband and myself, we created the Emit Change training program, which Emit stands for educational, motivational, inspirational, and transformational. Sometimes when you just look with education at something different, it starts a movement, you know, because if you feel really stuck, sometimes you just need a new perspective. Motivation then happens because you've now looked at things differently. But motivation runs out without spirit. And the spirit is incredibly important to keep that motivation going, you know. And then finally, when all of those elements are there, there's transformation. So I've recorded these frequencies and vibrations and sort of sound activation meditations to assist myself just to get to a better feeling place, because I realized for me to create change in my life, I'm going to have to feel different. And it was really hard to feel really great, you know. And we started creating this in the year 2023. My triplets actually moved to the Netherlands. They moved to Amsterdam with their father, and they were just turning 16, and my heart was breaking. And that year, so many things fell away out of my life. And I created this training program for myself so that I could feel better, you know. And how amazing to just bring those frequencies in, and I listen to them myself, and I just feel so grateful that I can share this with people. So we've created this 90-day training program, and you listen to this every day, and there's binaural frequencies, there's solfeggio frequencies. I channel and chant frequencies to really activate the feelings that we need to feel better and to resonate with similar feelings, because we are all music, we are all beautiful frequencies and sounds. And so this training program has literally saved my life. And I changed so much in my life, where today, and these tears are tears of gratitude. I'm so grateful that I can share something like this. And we are creating more and more work because I believe music and frequency and sound is the medicine of the future. And because I can hear these frequencies, I am now channeling the different feelings into sound, which you can listen to. Nothing is outside of you. These frequencies, these activations, these feelings are already within you, and the sound just sort of switches it on, activates it. So that's what we do at Emit Change, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to share it with everyone here. And thank you for having me here. And I have learned from everyone. I'm so grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Nianell. And as you were speaking, I was just thinking, isn't it interesting in the way of leadership as well, how we're so reluctant to really share who we are and what we do in the world. And I'll speak as a woman, and I'm not speaking for all women here, but I know a lot of women, they're looking for a balance. How much is too much to share? How much? And let it just come from you. We get to share our gifts in the world. So Anna-Marie, if you could just share about what we do at the Hague Center, and yeah, what makes your heart sing?
Well, I'm definitely going to listen to those. Thank you very much for offering that, and to share the website so I can have a look. That sounds beautiful. I think in leadership, what we practice and what I call for us to practice again and again is to know where we have our pain points, where we trigger. Like you were saying, Nianell, you were not feeling balanced in your life. So how do we get there? I presume your music helps that. There are also other ways that we can do that, of course. And knowing when are we triggered to step into either the victim or the tyrant or the rescuer and the rebel, the survivor, knowing that and how you can twist it into something that is positive, that is not what we call below the line, because it gets into this kind of like, not being fully yourself in a healthy dynamic. But through that, as a child, you were saved by these patterns that you learned to survive, and you did a lot of practice. So if you just tweak it and change it, you can become the creator, the challenger, the coach, the transformer, the thriver. So there are these patterns that we can change and shift. And if we know from each other where our weaknesses are, look, like me, I can, kind of like think it's not good enough, I could be a victim. So if you know that, and you know that, Haseena, there are moments where you just tweak a sentence so that I don't step into that, or that I can easily step out of it. I think that is just a joyful way of growing together. that you can immediately put into practice in all kinds of contexts, at home situations, in the work, in all kinds of fields. And that is something that we use to be able to facilitate and show up in an as coherent way as possible, so that that heart can radiate out and that we can create these waves in whatever way we can. So that is something that I'm really grateful that also the team members all accept that, because it is our most important principle, actually, that if we are in that coherence and above the line, as we call it, it's kind of like, you step into your power in that sense, then you can trust that whatever comes up that makes your heart sing is good for the Hague Center's purpose to become a heart-centered global governance structure and place where we can come together in love and light. So
thank you, Anna-Marie. That was so amazingly described. So yes, and then I'll just describe what Shamima and I did. And isn't it amazing how some of the opportunities we grab, some of the things we offer, in fact, most of them come from like our own fears, our own anger, our own darkness, that, and the darkness is always a contributor to the light. So, I mean, I've witnessed and felt how it feels to be a woman and a girl growing up, and in some circles being considered less than. And I think that's why Shamima and I just wanted girls to know their worth. And so we have through Leave No Girl Behind International, we've been empowering young women, girls and young women, through leadership programs. In fact, I think one of our young women is here in the audience. Diana, I do see you, if you're still here. And it's so good to have you. And so we've created a program now called I Woman Rise for women, no age limit. It starts from age 16. And because all of us want the community, we're so hungry for the community, we want to come back into alignment, we want to know about all the things that we didn't learn: abundance, conscious entrepreneurship, just personal growth and development, and stepping into who we are as individuals in so many different ways. So that's what it's about. And I think Shamima's put the link there. She's put all the links, the Hague Center link, Nianell's links. And what Shamima's just put in the chat is the Bubbles Beyond Borders link. We are having a launch of this I Woman Rise, and it's going to be on the 22nd of August, completely free of charge. So please feel free to join us. We'll continue this conversation, and just love to step further into the conversation. So I'd like to bring us back to gallery view, and thank you so much for all these wonderful comments. I'd like to bring us back into gallery view. And Joyce, I do see your hand. If it's going to be 30 seconds, then please share. And if it's not, then yeah, would you like to share for 30 seconds?
Yes, Anne-Marie talked about the reptilian brain of being survivors. The way to overcome that is to be a thriver. And the way to be a thriver is not to be a soloist. It's to be a performer in the symphony of life with all of its diversity of voices and instruments.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you for that gift. Yes. So we're going to go through an exercise right now, and you can put your words in the chat just to raise the vibration. Leadership always comes from alignment, and for us to feel we're aligned and in our hearts, we want to sort of, we want to shift into the space of, you know, our deepest truths, who we are at the core. So we're going to go through just an exercise of gratitude. And if you'd like to put your word in the chat, a word that you really feel, not a list in your head, but like something that you feel right now, whatever's alive in you, just put it in the chat. Let's raise the vibration in the room and leave the space with this beautiful high vibration, and moving into our own leadership, which begins with our center. So I just invite everyone. I am starlight, wonderful emergence, love, alignment, hopeful, inspired, embodied wonder. Oh, thank you so much. What beautiful words. I'm in the space between raindrops and the silence between notes. Oh, that's beautiful. Deep gratitude, unconditional love, thriver. Yeah, thank you so much. All is possible, shining. And as we coherent, as we do this, I just want to thank you, Nianell, and you, Anna Marie. I know we're in gallery view, so if you could both please just raise your hands. So anyone who's come in, okay, awesome. And just to say, what a great conversation, and look forward to continuing it.
Thank you, Haseena, for guiding us like this. Very beautiful.
Thank you, Haseena. You're amazing, and what a joy to be part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thank you to all of you here who co-created with us. And I am just going to stop the live stream right now.